Well, this is the first recording I've done in like quite a long time. Um, so this is a Wi-Fi draft league that I just joined. This is the ICPL. It's entering its 10th season. I joined this draft league on a whim. I wanted to do a Gen 9 draft league, and first two I wanted to join didn't accept me in, but there was no harm done. I finally found a spot in the ICPL, and yeah. So this is a Paldeadex draft league compared to this is a pre-home Paldeadex draft league. I want to make that clear. You see some leagues running around with like post-home Paldeadex draft leagues or just standard NatDex draft leagues, but this is pre-home Paldeadex. We play the games in game, which I'm recording this after I've already played my week 1 game. The only reason I haven't recorded my week 1 game is because I do not have a Switch capture card as of yet, but I am working on that as we speak. So, entering this draft, I had like one major plan, and that was just to draft my signature defensive core that I usually get. I usually try to get Tinglu Corviknight in any Gen 9 drafts I do. I find that they, cover each other's weaknesses really, really well. Tingwu is a very, very good defensive wall, same with Corviknight, even though the recovery of, Roost for Corviknight got nerfed from 16 PP to 8 PP, it is still damn good, and I really wanted to see if I could get it. However, it didn't really work out the way I wanted it to, and so I had to go for a like a pretty much a tier 1 Pokemon, like a S tier Pokemon very, very early. So I got Dragapult first. I got the 5th pick of I think 14, and so I picked Dragapult. You can see that I have like the pink square on it. That means it'll be a Terra Captain this season. But Terra Dragapult can just shred teams with Dragon Dance, especially if it has Terra Ghost. You just run sub DD, Dragon Darts, and then Terra Blast Ghost. Terra Blast will change, it's kind of like a Photon Geyser or whatever, I think. Is it Photon Geyser? That changed whether, I think it was Photon Geyser that changed whether the physical attack or the special attack is higher. So if Dragapult's physical attack is higher, Terra Blast will be physical. If special is higher, it'll be special. But yeah, I can also run like Terra Steel or Terra Fairy to have a better defensive matchup, or to be better defensively. And yeah, Terra Dragapult is just something you cannot say no to. And Dragapult itself has like a lot of utility. It can be Choice Specs, Life Orb. Hell, I could run Choice Band if I wanted to. Leftovers with Sub Dragon Dance. Leftovers with Sub Disable, or like a Pivot with status spreading, like Will-O-Wisp or T-Wave. There's just so much Dragapult can do. Hits a base 142 speed tier, which is faster than most of the metagame. I'm not sure what is faster than Dragapult, to be honest, until Regieleki or Zeraora come out. But very fast Pokemon will be important to pick up a good Fairy type and a good Steel type waiter to pair up with it, and get a good physical breaker, good special breaker, so Dragapult doesn't feel forced into being solely a special breaker, solely a physical breaker, if that makes sense. But so next, I was still looking at trying to get Tinglu Corviknight, but Corviknight got sniped pretty late in the first round / early second round, so I had to improvise. My initial plan, an initial plan at first for me was to go Iron Shreds and Rotom Wash. So I didn't end up getting Rotom Wash. It got sniped in the second round, but I did end up getting Iron Shreds as my second pick. So Iron Treads can do, it can do a lot. It's kind of like Bolt being like kind of a Swiss Army knife type of Pokemon. Has offensive and defensive utility, gets hazard removal with rapid spin, sets hazard with stealth rocks, and it can even be an underrated offensive sweeper with like Quart Drive, boosted energy for like Earthquake, Iron Head, stuff like that. In week one, I used I think AV, which is one of my more favorite sets for this thing. Just really take advantage of the offensive and defensive utilities it has. So yeah. Wait, did I run AV? No, I ran leftovers week one. I may run AV at some point just to kind of make its defensive utility better, especially like on the special side, and then just try to focus on like offense for some of the investment. So yeah. I've never used Iron Treads. It's always been one of the Pokemon that's interested me. However, I've been drafting Corviknight Tinglu like crazy, so I haven't had a chance to really use it. And it also gets Volt Switch for pivoting, which I found fun. So, since Rotom Wash got sniped, I decided to just say fuck it and get Toxapex. I the the I cannot think today. So the thought process here was, I think I'm going to build defensively, and then pick up like some more like lower tier offensive breakers like Farigiraf or something. And so I got Toxapex, and the reason why I got it, I get Haze and I get Toxic Spikes. Toxic Spikes will let me just slowly whittle teams down. It keeps other teams' defenses in check by poisoning them on entry. And also Haze can just stop setup sweepers cold in their tracks. It gets access to chilling water to kind of keep their physical attackers in check. And Pex is just like really, really good defensively. Poison Water is a solid defensive type. It has like 152 base defense, 142 base special defense. Sadly lost a knockoff, and I think Scald. However, I don't think it should affect it that much. Because, well, yeah. I mean, it's Toxapex, it gets Regenerator, and it's still annoying as hell to take down. And pairing it up, so I got Umbreon. In this draft, there were some minor hiccups on the document for the league, and Umbreon was one of those. There was like a list of Pokemon that got left off the document by accident, and if someone managed to spot one, and they get it for a point. So I got a 1-point Umbreon in this draft, and it's going to be a Terra Captain. Terra Fairy Umbreon is like a really, really good defensive wall, and yeah. I think it lost access to like Toxic and Heal Bell, but it gained access to Thunder Wave, which slows down things for like Dragapult, Iron Treads, or you'll see later down the line what I'm drafting. And it still gets Foul Play, so it can still stop like physical sweepers by using their physical attack against them. And it still gets Wish Protect, and Wish wasn't nerfed from 16 PP to 8 PP. So I can still Wish Protect stall and just like scout to see what people want to do, maybe fish for more Dragon Dances if Foul Play doesn't KO. And yeah, synchronize to try to discourage like Toxic. Granted like nothing gets Heal Bell this gen, so I don't think I'm going to be discouraging much, especially since the proposition of Umbreon getting poisoned is just like irresistible. I could run like Terra Steel Umbreon or Terra Poison Umbreon to combat that, but Terra Fairy is like the main thing for me. I have Toxapex Umbreon as my defensive core, and I felt comfortable leaving it at that. So I think next I picked up. I think next I was going to pick up like Volcarona, and it did manage to fall back to me. So I got Volcarona next. It lost Roost this gym, but it gained access to Morning Sun, which still heals it. So I can still run my favorite Volcarona set, which is just a bulky Quiver Dance set. 2 attacks, Quiver Dance, Morning Sun, heavy duty boots, good amount of defensive investment, HP investment, a little speed. That's my favorite Volcarona set, and well, honestly shouldn't have said it on camera, but I mean they know me at this point. They know that I love this Volcarona so much. But it gives me a special sweeper and a special breaker, so Dragapult doesn't have to feel forced to be choice specs every week, or like, yeah, just choice specs every week. Or it can just help Dragapult out by just wreaking havoc on my opponent, especially. Or Dragapult can just clear the way for Volcarona to sweep in the late game, and yeah, Volcarona gives me a fire type, it gives me a bug type, it gives me U-turn support too, and it has not two great abilities, Swarm ain't great. It gives me a great ability in Flame Body, which can also kind of like potentially cripple the other physical attackers by having a 30% burn chance, which will have their physical attack power. So Volcarona was that pick. Next, I decided to get some support, and I sniped quite a few people with this pick. I got Screamtail. Screamtail, along with Umbreon, according to Lord Envy himself, who did help me out a bit with this draft. 2 of the best wish passers in the game. So having both of them on this team is really, really fun. And Screamtail does more for me in terms of support. So Screamtail can get White Screen and Reflect, gets U-turn, Wish obviously, and it gets Stealth Rocks too. So that's very, very helpful. It's a Psychic Fairy type, filling a tight void on my team. It helps me get part of my Dark Fighting Psychic core, and it finishes off my Fairy Dragon Steel core with the Dragapult and Iron Shreds. So yeah, I've never used Screamtail. I've had to face it a couple times, and it's always done pretty solid at support. So I want to try it out and see how it does. Setting screens potentially for Volcarona or Dragapult to sweep, or maybe even a Double Dance Umbreon. I don't know, because Umbreon does get Curse and I think Calm Mind, and also Stored Power. So hint hint. Not insinuating anything to my week 2 opponent. But yeah, well, the Double Dance Umbreon is just going to be more of a funny thing if I can pull it off. It's bulky enough too. I think I can do it at some point, but yeah. So next up, my last 4 picks were like very, very hard to decide on. And so I eventually settled. Like, I was torn between 2 electric types. I was going to go either Iron Hands or a Rotom form. I had no clue what to do, so I decided, do I need a physical breaker more, or do I need a Rotom? And I decided I need a physical breaker, so I got big Iron Hands for my next pick. Iron Hands, picking this makes me very, very, very weak to ground, as you can see from my draft. So I'd have to remedy that later on in the draft. But Iron Hands is like an unreal physical breaker. Like, its physical attack is so high, you can avoid investing in attack. And you can still 2-hit KO most things. It's a good electric fighting type, gets Volt Switch, it's very, very good with AV, Choice Band, stuff like that. I could even Quark Drive. I could even go Quark Drive with Booster Energy, or to boost my physical attack even further. And yeah, Iron Hands is just a fun time. There's nothing that comes in on it really. If you get off a banded quest combat, something is going to either switch in or die trying. And even if they do manage to not die in one hit, they're probably still like at half or less. And you can just chip it off with another close combat. And I just love that. Um, it did some work in my week 1 game. I brought an AV set. It managed to tank some hits, and it managed to do an alright job. Umbreon, Dragapult, and Volcarona were the stars of the show, but out of respect for my week 1 opponent, I'm not going to go too much into it. I know my opponent was pretty mad about it, and just out of respect for him, I'm not going to mention that. Next up, I was going to try to shore up my ground weakness. I came up with a plan to get like Rotom Frost instead of Cryogonal, but Rotom Frost got sniped from me, so I was just like, yeah, fuck it, let's get Cryogonal. So Cryogonal, base of 105, I think, gets Rapid Spin, Freeze Dry, stuff like that, so yeah. It's an Ice type with Levitate, and Levitate makes me immune to ground type, so I have a ground immunity finally, and I know I need more help for ground types. I forget what all this gets. This is mainly here to fill a type void to make me not weak to ground. So my next 2 actual picks to make me not weak to ground, I have Braviary, which is another 1-point Pokemon, and then I got Go-Goat, which is, well, not really a 1-point Pokemon, it's a 2-point Pokemon. And it's also going to be my final Terra Captain. But Braviary, back to Braviary. Braviary gets Roost and Defog, something that Staraptor, which I was also debating getting, doesn't even get this gen. It gets U-Turn, it gets everything Staraptor gets, or Staraptor used to have, which I just find funny. It gets Defiant for cheeky white Defiant sweeps. If someone has an Intimidate mon, I legit could run Defiant Adrenaline Orb and just try to sweep them. But Close Combat, Brave Bird, Roost, Defog, U-Turn, stuff like that, Braviary can run. It also gets Rock Slide, so yeah. I'm excited to use Braviary. This is one of the Pokemon I've never used before. Same with Go-Goat. Like, I've never used Go-Goat before, Cryogonal I've never used before, but Go-Goat I'm especially hyped for. I wanted to get, like, Arboliva, or, like, well, actually, there wasn't really many good grasses left. I think Arboliva was the one I wanted, but because grassy terrain would help a lot with my ground weakness, and I wouldn't have to get, like, Braviary for a flying type. I could just get like another flying type, but I wouldn't be forced into getting Braviary for a normal type. But Go-Go pure grass type gets Sap Sipper, so I have a grass immunity. Not that I'm strapped for answers to grass types, but it's Horn Leech, Leech Seed, still gets Milk Drink. Trying to think. I can't think of what else it gets, but yeah, it's a pretty good and pretty underrated defensive grass type. And with Sap Sipper, I can run like Terra Water or something and not get hurt as much, and be immune to grass types. So I'd only be like weak to electric moves, and electric types don't usually want to switch in on Go-Goat. And if they do, I have Iron Treads, I have Dragapult, I have Iron Hands even to come in and take the hit. Umbreon could take the hit because Umbreon's just a really, really good tank. And yeah. But I guess that is my ICPL Season 10 draft. I'm super duper excited. Like I said, I am recording this before my Week 2 battle and after my Week 1 battle. So, yeah. I cannot wait to get to be able to record Wi-Fi battles this season. That's something I've always wanted to do. Some of the YouTubers that I used to watch, like I've always wanted to record like in-game Wi-Fi battles. So like YouTubers like A Drive or PokeAim, Envy. Those are a few of my like inspirations for wanting to get into draft and finally being able to do what they do. It's just it's so awesome. But week 2, we will be playing my good friend Josh and his team, the Hotz Peak Deoxys. He has a freaking terrifying team. Like, I went on about my defensive core of Toxapex Umbreon, but man, his team just shreds me. He has like Gardevoir, Great Tusk. He has Orthworm to like Shed Tail out into like Salamence for setup sweeping. It is a terrifying team, and he also has a good defensive. He has a good defensive backbone because that's how Josh usually drafts. I am terrified of his team, but I am going to try my best. But I will, I guess, see you when that game starts. So, peace.